And then I remembered you sent me a draft description of something that you named protected runners. So basically, shared runners, so runners owned and managed by GitLab administrator, but assigned to specific projects, not available publicly. And then we had few other problems that just forced me to think that maybe we should rethink our runner models, because it works. Let's say it works, and we all know how to use it quite efficiently. However, there are some problems, like people expect that they own the runner, which with our model is not fully true, because the runner is not owned by the person, it's not owned by an entity. It's strictly coupled with a type, with these types features and limitations, and there is no way to work between of this. Second problem is that mm, that there are some, like what I just said, the features and limitations. There are many things that are common for the runner, mostly what we can see in the runner details page on in GitLab. So let's name it the runner object, the runner entity in GitLab. But there are features that are living outside of that, and that are coupled strictly with specific types. So, for example, we have this first scheduling, and we have uh, pipeline minute limits. Phase scheduling, I'm 100% sure it's possible only for the instance runner, nothing else. The pipeline minute limits, I'm almost sure that it's also only available to the shared runners. So if you would like to create the group runners and try to have some limits to, let's say, create an internal team budget to define how much a sub team can use of a common resources that you have in your organization, it's not possible. You need to have your own GitLab installation to manage such limits. From the other hand, we have a nice feature in the project type of the runners, which is sharing the runner between different projects that you own, which is not possible in the groups. If you have multiple top level groups in GitLab, you can't use one runner, one installation, and share them between your groups. You need to register a unique runner in each of your top level groups that you own. This is a nice feature that people like, but it has also some risks and limitations. Like, the runner is not owned by a person. The runner is connected to a project and can be managed by any owner of this project. So, for example, you create your own runner with some private information that you want to secure by configuring it on the runner. You add it to the project, but at this moment, anyone else who is the maintainer on this project, or is an owner of the group where this project exists, is able to share this runner with any other project where he is the maintainer. And then when he do this, a maintainer of that project, which you may even be not related to, can use this runner and share it further. So it means that if you want to add a project runner, you must really trust to all of the people that have owner and maintainer access to the project. If you want to use any secret or secure or highly built resources with this runner. Uh, so these are the problems and limitations that we were talking about since a long time. And now, What I would like to propose is to separate the model that we have now to two parts, leave one of them mostly unchanged, and work on redesigning the second part. What currently I think works quite well is the runner entity in GitLab. It has some features, it has some attributes, like you can define a timeout for a job that will be forced on the runner if it's the shortest one. You can set the runner to be protected so that only protected branches and tags can be jobs from protected branches and tags can be executed on it. It has the tagging mechanism, the run untagged options, and then you can use tags to adduce your jobs and choose which runner you want to choose. And this, at least for now, I would leave as it is. What I would change is drop totally the concept of runner types and migrate it to runner ownership. So, for example, now you register the runner explicitly as an instance runner or a group runner or a project runner. It's connected with the instance, one of the groups, or one of the projects. Uh, in my idea, you register the runner. Initially, it's connected with you as the GitLab user. You can then, to make some things easier, for example, to not lose the runner or lose ability to maintain the runner when a single user is removed from GitLab, you can transfer ownership to the instance. In this case, any instance administrator will be able to manage such runner, or to a namespace. In that case, any owner of this namespace will be available to use the runner. So the runner has no type. The runner has an ownership, which is set to a user, and then only this user can maintain the runner, which means that, which I will talk about in a moment, uh, only this user can decide which project this runner is connected to, which is what we are lacking now. So I create a runner, I add it to one of my projects. No matter how many maintainers this project have, they can't share this runner with any other project, but I can. I'm the owner of the runner, and I just need to be a maintainer of another project to add this runner there. When I will add it there, still only I can decide where this runner goes. Of course, if I will transfer the ownership to a namespace, then any owner of this namespace can do this. Or if I will transfer this to the instance, any administrator can do this. And by default, like, this is something that I'm thinking about. Currently, administrator can do whatever he wants with any runner in GitLab instance. Maybe it should not be like that. Maybe if the runner is not owned by the instance, administrator should be not able to edit the details. Maybe it should be able only to I don't know, stop and delete the runner because we see that this runner creates some abusing and we need to pause it or remove it. But we should not maintain it. And this is something that is happening in, for example, uh, Vault. Let's say, maybe not fully, because if you are a Vault root, you can do anything that you want. But it's highly recommended to not use Vault root permissions. You should have permissions to only what is really necessary, and most tutorials shows that the administrator of Vault should be able to maintain access and policies, but should not have by default access to any secrets that the users may create, because the administrator maybe is not allowed to or authorized to see some secret. And maybe this is something that we could also include here. Or we could just say that the GitLab administrator can do anything, and GitLab administrator by design owns any of the runners, but we are still staying with the namespace or user ownership that limits the regular user access. Uh, Having that, we have the runner object that is registered at GitLab, and by default is not available to anyone. I registered it, it's connected with me, but I need to point where I want to use it. And in my idea, the runner is always connected to a project because the jobs are running in the project scope. So I register a runner, I transfer the ownership, for example, to the namespace, but this doesn't mean that all of the projects in this namespace have access to this runner. No one have. I need to add it explicitly to every project. This, of course, will be not scalable in case of shared runners and namespace runners. So then we can add a separate mechanism that would automatically uh, add connection between selected runner to every new project that is installed in GitLab or every new project that is created in the namespace. And of course, add it automatically to every project in our instance or in our namespace with, of course, option to the namespace project owner. This is what we are working or already did right now. So you can choose in your project that you don't want to use shared runners. If you set such option, the runner that is owned by instance will be not added to your project. The same goes for the namespace runners. You can choose on the namespace level or on the project level that you don't want to get connection to a runner owned by the namespace or by the instance. So when an automatic mechanism will be used, for example, we added new runner that is owned by the instance, we click a button connected with all of the projects. Projects that have the setting that they don't want to use it don't get this connection. And then we would need to think how we can make it possible to revert this decision. So we have several runners that we mark that should be connected with everything. User didn't want to have this, now he wants to have this. Instead of asking us to explicitly allow this, we would need to think about how this can be done, how this could be done outside of it. These are some details that would need to be carefully think when we would be designing this. So we have the runner that has an explicit ownership. Only the selected owner or group of owners can maintain the details of the runner. Runner is always explicitly connected with a project. And now the last thing that we need is what I called here the decorators. So different features that we have now. For example, fair scheduling algorithm. Currently, it's considered only when it's the instance runner that asks for a job, but you already have a customer who would like to have this on the group runners. It with the current implementation of the fair scheduling doesn't have any sense on the project, but for group runners definitely have. So you are the owner of the runner, and now you select that you want to enable fair scheduling algorithm for this runner. Then we don't enable it. We don't use the at least the current SQL query when we detect that this is the instance runner. We just include it because the owner of the runner said put fair scheduling to this runner. And the same goes, for example, with put the pipeline minus quotas here. So I want to have minute quotas. I want to define that it's such value, and now use the existing mechanism of the namespace limits to just ensure that it's executed. Again, the idea seems easy. It will need some careful designing if we will go this way, because for now, uh, then the quotas are set for the runner and are calculated globally as shared runners quota for the namespace. And if we want to have independent runners that each of them works separately, then we would need to think how to cover this, if this would be enabled per run. And I think this is all that I had in my mind. Like, we are still staying with the authentication mechanisms that we have now, and if we will change them with what we want to do this year, it will be just changed, because job execution is handled in the job context. Asking for jobs is handled in the runner context already, and the registration, we already were thinking about changing the scope of the registration, so it could be added a little more then. Mm, yeah, I think this is all. I don't know if this would work. I have a feeling that it could make some things easier, fix some small problems, and give some more features. But there are definitely cases that we need to carefully think about, like the quotas mechanism, like the way how to manage access to it in batches, not manually, project by project, etc., etc. I can hear you.
I mean, wow, that's really helpful, Thomas. I have a couple quick questions. I just in the chat, in the Zoom chat, I just dropped a snippet from an interview that I had with one of our large customers this past Friday. It was around this whole protected runners thing. From that snippet, it sounds as if what you're describing would better solve their problem long term. What do you think?
In terms of the runners, the challenge is that we have three ways of sharing runners for everybody: group level, project level. We would like to at least control the usage so that we don't get too many people using it, and then it could break. Mm, the question is what they mean by too many people using it, because the current model, where we have the instance, group, and project runner, uh, means that everyone in GitLab can use it,
Mhm.
everyone in the namespace can use it, everyone in the project can use it. And with my idea, I'm not changing this, because
It's still
the
open.
job is always executed in the project scope, and it's only basically our current model shows which projects can access the runners. So all projects at GitLab, on GitLab installation, all projects in a specified namespace, or a single project, or projects that share the runner. But then, who can execute jobs on it? It's a separate case, because you have the protected runners. So only people allowed to push to protected branches and tags can execute jobs on these runners, and not protected runners, where anyone with access to the project, with at least developer level, can use it, because developer can push, get developer can get access to the UI, where you can start a pipeline, retrieve a job, etc., etc. Then maintainers can also define the schedules, can prepare the trigger, tokens to trigger it externally. And and the question is, do they want to limit who can physically execute job on the runner? Then no, my idea doesn't touch this level of access. This, if we think we need more grind level access here, this needs to be designed. If they want to have less people that can edit the runner, then my idea will target their needs,
Okay.
because in what I propose, only a single user can have access to a runner if needed, or a specified group can have access if needed.
I have two more questions. I know we're out of time, so hopefully we just go a few minutes over. So one is in terms of the permissions model, you mentioned that you're thinking that the administrators of the instance would only be able to potentially stop a job, pause a job, and not actually do anything
The
more with
the
the
the,
runner.
the runner,
Right.
pause, stop or delete the runner.
Are we thinking then that in this new model, we would need some sort of permissions model at the instant level to say, or maybe it's wide open to begin with. Any user can create a runner. It's our default position. And do we need to think about a mechanism that says, well, maybe the administrator can restrict Darren from creating runners? Do we need to go to that level?
Oh, this is an interesting case. Like, you can't do this now because the runner can be registered now by anyone who knows the registration token.
Right.
We don't consider the user. We even don't know the user. Like, I can give you a registration token to GitLab.com shared runners. You can give you to an unknown person on the street, and this person will be able to register a runner even not having account on GitLab.com.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not restricted right now. Uh, the question is, do we need to restrict this? Why we would need to restrict this? Because by default, you can register in the idea that I'm proposing. You can register the runner, which will be uh, owned by you and initially not connected with any project.
Mm-hmm.
And you, as the person, can connect it only with the projects that you have maintainer access to. So only the projects that you own. Now, if you want to make it what we call now the instance runner, you need to transfer the ownership to the instance level. And what we need to have here maybe is acceptance from the new owner that they want to use it. Because if we will just say, make this runner owned by the instance, and it will be owned by the instance at this moment, and then we have a mechanism that adds any new runner owned as the instance to all projects at GitLab, then you could very easily create a runner that will access every project at the GitLab installation. So definitely the owner of the namespace that we want to give the runner to, or the instance that we want to give the runner to, would need to accept that we want to take this ownership. If it will be not accepted, then you can create only runners that will be connected with the projects that you own. Because we don't use shared single shared registration tokens, it becomes impossible for you to leak, intentionally or not, the registration token to someone who can then register a runner without authorization. Because we register always the runner in context of the user, and by default this user can access only his own resources, nothing else. And the different resource owners need to accept that they want to take ownership of this run.
And my last question along these lines is, I'm assuming then we would need to have some mechanism to handle quote unquote orphan runners. So let's just say we have this new model, Darren
Mhm.
registers a runner, right? to his project, and let's just say he leaves the company, but the project is still active, the runner is still active, he hasn't transferred ownership. I'm assuming we'd have to have some mechanism for the group level person or the admin level of the instance to be able to do something with that runner that's kind of now quote unquote orphaned.
Hmm. Mm, okay, let's look at this in a different level. Today, you create a project that you create in your own personal namespace. And we all start using this project. Let's say this is what I did in the past. I created a GCP exporter for Prometheus because we wanted to track some GCP metrics. I created in my personal namespace, and before I moved this project to GitLab ORG group, let's say I died. Uh, no one can access my private project. No one can maintain my private project. If it's really needed, the administrator of GitLab could access my project and transfer it. But because it was in my personal namespace, there is no shared group other than administrators that can do anything with this project. Uh, because of that, we ask everyone to create projects that we want GitLab to have ownership on in the groups owned by GitLab. Because then if I create a project under, for example, GitLab org/CICD, and I leave the company, I will die, my account will be deleted because of a mistake, the project still exists and every GitLab org group owner can do whatever he wants with maintaining this. And now going to the runner case, this is why I'm thinking, but I'm not fully sure if administrator of GitLab should have restricted access to such runners, because then if you create the runner, you add it to a project, but you leave yourself as the owner and don't move it to the namespace, and you leave the company or you delete your account, then no one can do anything with this runner except of delete it. So then we would need to have administrator who can open the settings of this runner and said, okay, I'm moving the ownership of this blocked, deleted, not active user to a namespace. Uh, so yeah, maybe this is the answer to my concerns. Like, administrator of GitLab currently can do anything with everything in GitLab. So we should not change this in case of the runners.
And my last question, I promise. I know we still have some details to work out, but in terms of like, from your, just kind of what you're thinking of right now, in terms of timing, would you suggest that we tackle the secure API work first, or in parallel with this kind of redesign, or this redesign comes after?
I think we should start with the secure API because it keeps biting us up. Even today, I had a discussion on Slack with one of our technical account managers about, well, this shared tokens model seems quite not secure. When and how we can fix this? And I pointed to the secure API issue that we have, and this question keeps coming back, and because, like what I said, we will not the secure API issue and redesign of the runner models issue will not interfere in case of the job context authorization, because what I'm saying about is not related to job at all. It will not interfere in case of the runner authorization, because it's still the same runner that exists in GitLab, and now the runner process that exists somewhere needs to authenticate, and how we will authenticate is a separate problem. The only part where it could interfere is registration and new runner. But what I propose in the secure API issue is to move out totally from the shared tokens model that we have now and start using the user personal access token for registration. So if we will also change the runners model, I also propose to register them in context of the user. So authentication level is off. It will be the same in both issues. The only difference is that for now in the secure API, we propose that like we still need to register instance, group, or project level. And for that, we proposed initially to not use the global API endpoint, but an instance API endpoint, a project or a namespace API endpoint. And in the runner model redesign, it would be a user API endpoint. And I think if we could implement it nicely, it also should not very interfere, because we would add a new endpoint to register a runner in context of the user, which in far plan would become the only endpoint, or the default endpoint that we document and be loud about. And then, for example, the instance level endpoint now would register a new instance level runner. In my idea, would register a new runner automatically with the instance ownership. With the secure API idea, because we are using private access tokens, we first need to authenticate that the user, like we need to check that the user who authenticated the request is authorized to register a new instant type runner. In the new proposed model, you would need to check if he is authenticated to maintain GitLab instance, so he can give the runner the instance ownership. So in fact, we could prepare all of the new endpoints for the secure API. And then if we will decide to change the model, we just change the behavior of these endpoints. And from user perspective, it would even be nice to have these endpoints, because then if you know that you want to register a shared runner, you don't need to register it in your own namespace, in your own ownership, and transfer it to the instance, and then go to the UI and accept this transfer. When you are the administrator in all of these steps, you just automatically register the runner with the instance ownership, and the permission model just checks if you're allowed to do this. And the same goes then to the namespace level and to the project level, where you automatically connect the runner with this project that you specified during registration, and you are still allowed to do different things. And then having that, we can make a thing that may be strange, but I saw maybe even stranger cases in what users want to do. You can register a runner that will be available to 3 random projects in 3 random namespaces, and add it as a namespace, whole namespace available runner in 3 other namespaces. So something that is currently not possible at all, like sharing the runners between groups.
Brilliant. Hey, Tomas, just to wrap up, I propose then, and I can take this first next step. I can propose taking the text of this discussion and creating an initial epic that we can then kind of iterate on. Any concerns or objections with that approach?
Mm, no. I wanted to have this call to, like, you see that it's a lot of things to describe, and I could spend probably 5 6 hours to describe all of this, and then we would look on that and say, no, this is stupid. We should not do this. And I was able to describe this in half of hour. If you think this idea is worth at least discussing, I can write this down. We can create an epic or a blueprint document, whatever we think it's needed at this place. Share this call, so we can then check if we remembered about all of the details that we talked about, and start discussing this with a wider audience.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely worth pursuing and discussing. In terms of the text for the epic, yeah, you're certainly open to typing it up if you wanted. But what I was thinking was I would just take the transcript from the call that Zoom creates,
Mhm.
and we'll use that as the initial starting point of the content in the epic, and then it's easy for us to just edit that.
Works for me. If like, do you want to create this transcript manually, or do you have any tooling
Oh,
for that?
oh no, Zoom does it automatically with the recording.
Is able to
Yep.
write down what we are talking about?
Yeah, but it takes a few minutes, like maybe sometimes 30 minutes or so for the transcript to get done. But once you have the recording feature turned on, it transcribes our text.
Skynet, Skynet is a reality.
And yeah, Zoom does it. I forget which other one does it as well. But yeah, Zoom does that. I haven't, I noticed it last week when I was doing an interview. Let me pause the recording. I'm going to ask